Welcome to the business to business track workshop entitled Growth Strategies, Scaling Up Through Strategic Partnerships. Today we're going to talk about joint ventures and other types of strategic partnerships that might help your business get to a higher level or do things that you can't do on your own. I am Kevin Bruce. I'm with the law firm of Bruce Turner. We have over the years helped a number of businesses with joint ventures. We've done mergers and acquisitions, strategic alliances. We've assisted clients with a number of different types of strategic partnerships. And it is my pleasure this afternoon to host this panel. Let me now introduce our speakers to you. First of all, let's start out with Campbell Ford Construction. In 2013, Andre Ford and Michael Campbell started Campbell Ford Construction, Inc. Their main focus is to provide construction services in divisions 2 and 3, primarily including site demolition, interior demolition, site concrete, earthwork, erosion control, and storm damage. In addition to providing these services, Campbell Ford also does consulting for construction businesses, focusing primarily on construction paperwork systems and project management, such as schedule of values, project schedules, estimating services, and applications for payment. Their main goal is to provide their customers with an exceptional product and excellent service. Campbell Ford's slogan is "Integrity Matters." In 2016, Andre Ford started in the financial and insurance industry with Edward Jones Investments as a financial advisor responsible for wealth and risk management. During this time, he studied financial markets and different types of insurance, including property and casualty. Welcome, Andre, and thank you for joining us today. Next, we have Steve Packard. Steve is the Vice President of T&D Operations for Kiewit Power Delivery under Kiewit Power Constructors. Based in Lenexa, Kansas, Kiewit Power Constructors is Kiewit Corporation's union power construction business. He oversees transmission and distribution operations. Before this role, Steve was the project manager for the TVA Allen project and was also integral in the success of both the Allen and Paradise combined cycle projects. Most recently, he sponsored Kiewit's Blue Water project for Detroit Edison. Steve joined Kiewit as a field and an estimating intern in 2000. He has a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Wyoming and received an MBA from the University of Nevada in 2017. Welcome, Steve, and thank you for joining us today. Anthony Norris is the CEO of Worldwide Label and Packaging, LLC, a packaging company having the facility in McCrory, Arkansas, and 2 facilities in Memphis, Tennessee. In addition, Anthony serves as the Chief Development Officer of the YMCA of Memphis and the Mid-South. Since 2000, Worldwide and its affiliates have provided packaging, processing, warehousing, and staffing services to a variety of business partners across the world, including Procter & Gamble, Nike, FedEx, and many others. To serve those clients, Anthony has navigated and led his Worldwide through a number of successful strategic partnerships. Anthony began his career as an attorney, having graduated from the University of North Carolina School of Law. Welcome, Anthony. Thank you for joining us today. Now, with that said, let me get out of the way and put some questions out, and let's start hearing from our panelists. Andre, I'm going to start with you. First of all, tell us about your company, Campbell Ford, and what led to your partnership with Kiewit.
Mr. Kevin, thank you for having me and appreciate the question. In 2016, there was a job here in Memphis as TVA Allen Combined Cycle Plant. And Mike Campbell and I, we submitted a proposal to Kiewit initially to do some, painting some pipe, and it was a smaller contract, but it was a way in the door for us. And so we were initially referred to Kiewit and their procurement managers. from another local contractor. And that's how we initially had our first introduction. And from there, once we, got in the door and were able to show them that, we could do, something that scope. And then, it ballooned into us doing some other work there on site that's, concrete finishing. And then we ended up building out some buildings. And so it turned in from a $50,000 deal to, almost $4 million.
Okay, great. So Steve, tell us, why don't you tell us a little bit about Kiewit and what made Campbell Florida a good partner for you?
Yeah, Kevin, I mean, the first thing I want to start is just thank you and Giselle for inviting me on this. I mean, Andre always asks, hey, can we tell our story to people? Because I think it really gives some inspiration and just kind of a lot of, hope and courage. And there's good things that happen out there, right? If you just, put your heart into it. And we're going to tell you our story here. So I hope you enjoy it. I mean, I wanted to tell everybody, I lived in Memphis for 3 years, and the impact from being a partner with MMBC. And Giselle worked for MLGW at the time and really, coaching us as a big prime coming into town, coming out of, the economic development that was going on in Memphis. I mean, a big partnership and a big success. We could not have been successful without joining MMBC and finding people that can help us complete a really tough job. So we're going to tell you the story about Andre here. The other thing is I live in Las Vegas, and I tell you, we have a lot in common with Memphis. And I tell everybody this, Andre's heard this story, but I mean, we both got pyramids in town and a tie to Egypt. And you guys might be known for Elvis a little bit. We got about 100 of them we'd like to send back to you. So. But that's a little bit about me, and maybe to make a little personal connection, because I know there'll probably be some people that write me an email. But we came into Memphis with a big project, right? I think the total value of the project was about $1 billion, and for everybody involved, including the city of Memphis and all the suppliers, I mean, this meant a lot, right? I mean, we could really improve, not only our businesses and personal life, but give everybody that opportunity of hope. And we teamed up with MMBC and some of the other partners out there to just find subcontractors and suppliers that could help us, finish a successful job for our community and, our client. We all have various clients. I'd tell you, we had more than one client on that job. And so we did it'd be outreaches or just really, I mean, Andre's going to tell you about just kind of a word of mouth, story, and then having the courage to come up and just talk and start slow. And that's really how it started. We, we went around town and we found who the best people are to really partner with. And we wanted to pick a few people that we could venture into the business kind of slow and then really seeing where it's gone. And Andre and I and the group have been connected. He's actually done work. Their group has done work with 3 or 4 other Kiewit companies. And I hope that really gives everybody really the inspiration. But we're, big primes are always looking for partners. And I tell you, if, we always, when we get into an area and a job, because we are a national contractor, right? Local content and local people that just know how to get work done. We need them because we just can't come into town and do everything, right? We need the help. So thank you again.
Great. Well, for the two of you guys, let me ask another question to kind of dig in a little deeper into your relationship. I'm assuming that that your relationship allows Campbell and Ford to scale up to a level that it couldn't by itself. So can you, with that in mind, can you talk about, how do you measure success in the relationship? How does Campbell and Ford's ability to scale up play into it? Either one of you.
Maybe I'll start there a little bit. I guess to tell you, I know Kevin talked a little bit about Kiewit, but we're a large company, and 32 actual companies, subsidiaries together. And when you talk about scaling, right? I mean, scaling can be a lot of different ways, right? And I think we all think about revenue and how much work we're doing. But I mean, scaling takes a lot more of that. It talks about working with business plans, making our quality programs together, making our environments safer to work with, scaling on the number of customers, scaling on the number of employees. There's a lot of stuff with scaling that, Andre and I have worked together. I know he's got a lot of other people that have helped him throughout his career. So maybe a kind of pass it back. But I mean, success to me means, that you can have a couple little stumbling blocks and failures and you keep going, right? And I love calling Andre once a month saying, where are you at now? And he's telling me, new customers he's got, new type of work he's developing, new equipment he's bought. And that to me is success, is seeing just growth. No different than, I've got a niece that's going through college, and watching her grow and become a businesswoman is amazing, right? So, I mean, Andre, I might pass it back to you and tell your story a little bit.
Well, when I talk about scalability and our ever-growing partnership with Kiewit, I sometimes I get a little cracked up. So I apologize on the front end if I get a little emotional about it, because when we first started in 2016 on that job, we talk about scalability. We had at the time 7 employees, and that included Michael and myself. Okay, and that started in 2016, and when we finished that job, and we, of course, obviously started with one little contract, but it ballooned into doing, some couple buildings and building out some buildings and doing a lot of concrete finishing out there. And so the job lasted, initial contract was going to be a few weeks to last several years. Okay. And so scalability wise, when we started that job with 7 employees, when we finished the job, we had almost 30. So you're talking about tripling your size in a period of a few years. Not just that, but we were able to procure equipment to help us on other projects. Again, talking about scale, we were able to take some of Kiewit's safety programs and implement it in ours now. That's helped us procure other work with other clients because of our safety record. Still to this day, we have 0 recordables. And I attribute that a lot to Kiewit's motto, which is no one gets hurt. Okay, and that's not just that, but it's a lot more involves around that. But when we start talking scalability, it's just, again, like Packard just said, it's more than the revenues. It's people, it's other resources, it's actual knowledge, okay, that we didn't have before, and then we started working with Kiewit. So it's just just mushroomed and ballooned into something really beautiful for us, and we're still doing it. And I can tell you this: it's not, Packard and I were talking earlier. It's not all been roses either. Okay, when you're in any relationship, whether it's a business relationship or personal relationship, you have your up and downs. And we definitely had our downs, even on that project. Okay, but what we were able to do was we were able to take some of the things that we learned, and we were able to correct those things and move. And that's one of the things that Kiewit has really helped us with is learning from mistakes and how do you better yourself, not only as a person but as a businessman and a businesswoman. And so it's been absolutely fantastic for us. And again, we're still growing our relationship. We've done work with Kiewit in Indiana, and near Nashville. So we travel with them. I get bid invitations from these guys on a weekly basis. Okay, and so it's grown into, again, starting in Memphis and now nationally. The other offices and other chains of Kiewit have reached out to us to do work for. Okay, so it's been absolutely fantastic and a huge blessing to us. And with that, I will say this: in 2018, we were nominated for Scalable Business of the Year, and we won that in the NBDA Award of the Year in 2018. And we wouldn't have done that without Kiewit. In 2020, we won an award again. Again, we wouldn't have done that without Kiewit. So when I talk about scalability, it's amazing to me what they mean to me personally, and as a business. I don't know where we'd be right now without them. But I can tell you one thing: I'm thankful for them.
Yeah, And really to help the people that are online, I would tell you success and scaling, like you should sit down with a piece of paper right now and maybe you say, I want to be successful and scale on revenue. But I mean, you need to be thinking about the other resources that you got, right? So are your people, do you have a succession plan and moving up people? What about a diversity in clients, right? Because I told Andre, I was like, hey, don't just think you're going to ride this boat and we're the only guy you got. Like, I want to see you getting other jobs, right? So you need to scale in clients. You need to scale in the type of work that you do, what you supply. You need to scale in your knowledge. I tell everybody, like, when we get out of university or college or you get into a business, you can't quit learning. And that's what I really say is success is when I call Andre, and I mean, I don't even talk to him about how much money he's making. I'm like, hey, what are you doing now? Right. He's teaching. He's always got interest to really become the best in the business. And when you scale, it's not just always about revenue. So really good question, Kevin.
Okay, well, let me bring Anthony into the mix. Thanks, Anthony, for your patience. You've heard about the relationship between Campbell Florida and Kiewit. Tell us about some of the relationships, the strategic partnerships that Worldwide has entered.
Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate my fellow panelists for their successful partnership. Very impressed with their approach and their candid relationship, and not necessarily painting an all rosy picture, but showing that it just takes a lot of grit and determination to actually achieve mutual goals and objectives. So very excited to be here. It's truly a blessing in support of the MMBC and all the great work that they're doing to support minority and women-owned businesses that are so vital to our community. So yes, we have been very fortunate to learn and grow through partnerships. It's really part of our core strategy when we formed the business now 21 years ago. And our first partnership was pretty early on when we say the dog that caught the car. We met Procter & Gamble as we were in our startup phases and setting up our manufacturing operations. And we had an opportunity as they were launching the Reseal labeled wipes package in North America. And so we were invited to participate and compete for that opportunity. And so we recognized that it was beyond our capabilities and definitely the scale that we had initially. So we sought out a partner, and it was a very seasoned competitor out of Birmingham. And we formed a joint venture that not only convinced Procter & Gamble to trust us with this business. After 2 years of doing this product with the joint venture partner, we were able to transition it to our manufacturing facility, and we have been the primary supplier of baby wipes Reseal packaging for Procter & Gamble for over 15 years now. And that has really been the foundation of our business that allowed us to grow, build our quality management systems, our performance, wage and progression plans to really transform lives of our employees, but most importantly, to meet the needs of our customer. And it's really been challenged during the pandemic when supply chains are really strained and challenged with materials, disruption, truck driver shortages, et cetera. But it's that partnership that where we cut our teeth that has really enabled us to deliver value for our customers through the good times, as well as during challenging crises such as the pandemic. That's the partnership that I would highlight getting us started. But more recently, there have been two partnerships that have come about over the last several years that are also delivering value to leading corporations in the Memphis area. One is with a large WBE out of Arkansas, a large distributor that was challenged to deliver e-commerce packaging solutions for a major apparel company in the market. And so we were brought in to bring some of our manufacturing capabilities to provide local supply for this rapidly growing product line that really just exploded because of the growth of e-commerce during the pandemic. So that was that partnership was able to not only deliver value to the customer, but to the consumer, and then also allow us to create more jobs here locally. And then finally, a new partnership is delivering sustainable packaging solutions. And this is a partnership that we're developing with a Canadian firm with some new technology to be able to reduce the carbon footprint during the packaging supply chain. So those are just several examples of how our business was launched with a strong partnership and then has grown and is currently still looking for strategic partners that not only enable us to hopefully grow the business, but most importantly, be able to deliver value to our partner, but as well as our customer, and then ultimately the consumer. And our, I'd say our philosophy and approach to partnerships is biblically based. And we often look to Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4, where we say we esteem others higher than ourselves and look after others' interest as well as our own. So we apply that to partnerships, that we look at what's beneficial for our business, but to make it a win-win situation for both partners as well as our collective customers.
Great, thanks, Anthony. Let me ask, I'm gonna ask this question of all three of you. I guess, Steve, I'll start with you, then go to Andre and come back to Anthony. And it's, you know, what are the characteristics, what characteristics make a successful partnership in your mind? What are the qualities that you think are required for the partnership to be successful?
Good, I'm glad you asked that one, because I get a lot of, you know, questions when people approach us. And I would tell you, Kevin, the first one I would start with is you got to be able to trust everybody when they come in. Even when you're approaching prime contractors and everything, you got to trust that everybody's making the right decisions and is doing the right thing. And I think that puts you in the right mindset, right? And I tell you, there's really two things. There's trust and reputation. I think trust, you really got to start trusting from day one. And when I say trust, you know, there are relationships out there that we all may get burned on, whether it be a prime or a sub. But you got to realize that 90% of the time when you do business, everybody's going to do the right thing. And when those do happen, those are well worth the 10%. And don't be scared of the 10%. And then there's the reputation piece. And you know, Andre's heard me tell this deal, and I think he's, you know, we talked about this morning. He's got a good story to kind of tell how to build that reputation. But I think you need to understand that when you approach anybody, and that's even for Kiewit coming into a new client, you got to build that reputation up, right? It doesn't really matter what you've done in the past and working. You've got a new customer and you really got to build that reputation up. And sometimes you want to start small and do the best job you can do right off the bat. Turn that small job into like it's the biggest one you've ever had, right? And I know I asked Andre to kind of tell his story about how he started with us on this question, but I'd say understand that reputation is built, and it may feel like it's slow at first, but then I'd tell you the pressure comes on and it goes really fast, and you just got to give it time to get up to where maybe us as a prime is exceeding your expectations of what you want out of the partnership, right? But start slow, build that reputation, and then always trust going in. The other characteristics of a successful partnership is, I would tell you, it's like a relationship with anybody that you got. You know, I think about my wife and everything, and you know, not that I'm saying Andre's like my spouse. I may love him as much and everything, but you need to stay in communication. It's constant communication, right? And I tell you, there's days where you know, I've messed up or Andre's messed up, and you know, he doesn't want to call me, but guess what? He shows up the next morning and he says, hey, you got 5 minutes, you know, I got something to tell you, whether it's good or bad news. And we may be just catching up on what's going on, but it's a relationship and you got to understand that. And if you just think about it just like that, and you put your heart and soul into what your expectations are, it's gonna come through. And I think that's any type of partnership that I've started or been involved with. I mean, it's a relationship. So start with trust, build a reputation, and consistent communication.
Andre.
Thank you.
Yes, I would definitely say that, you know, characteristically, our relationship is more like a marriage. And I would tell you that I'm a newlywed myself, and I've got a lot to learn about myself on a regular basis. Okay, and I will tell you that, you know, as far as characteristics of a good partnership is, one is just knowing, okay, that you're going to be learning from each other the whole time. You're going to learn new things the whole time. Okay, and you're never going to stop, you know, discovering these things about one another. I will tell you that. And I think, you know, to piggyback on Packard's trust is you have to be really transparent. Okay, you've got to really allow, especially a contractor of the size of a Kiewit, you've got to be able to you know, be a little vulnerable and let them dig in a little bit, because they're going to. If they're putting risk out there in their own resources, they got to know, for one, can you do it? And two, is it worth the risk? Is it worth the reward there? And so you just have to be really transparent and honest with yourself and with your partner. And that's the same in anything in life, right? In any relationship, you have to have that trust and transparency. And I would tell you too, the last thing is, how do you respond? Good character, this is really, and I've learned this a lot dealing with Packard, is how do you respond to adversity? When it's not exactly going your way, how do you respond? And I think knowing how you yourself and digging into yourself and how you deal with that, it will absolutely help you when dealing with a contractor like a Kiewit. Okay, because I can tell you that you're going to deal with adversity. You're going to deal with it, and it's going to come, and it may come multiple times on the same job. Okay, but how do you pick yourself up by the bootstraps and you continue on is a huge characteristic, and a character issue that listen, you know, it's a big thing for us, and it's a huge thing for Kiewit, because you know they're a company of integrity and values, and so you got to have the same kind of things. Okay, when you talk about scaling, you also scale with the company and their characteristics as well. Okay, you kind of follow their mottos. You kind of take their personalities on too. Okay, so I'll tell you those. You know, as far as I'm concerned, those are really some of the key characteristics of dealing with a partner like Kiewit.
Okay, great, Andre. You know, that concept of adversity. Maybe if we have time at the end, maybe we'll come back and dig a little deeper into that, because as in any partnership, any relationship, you're going to face adversity.
Yep.
So maybe we'll have time to come back and talk about that a little bit more. But for now, Anthony, let me come to you. So what characteristics do you think are important for a successful partner?
Well, it's going to sound a little bit like a record player. I'm going to say a lot of the things that both have already been said. So I think they did a great job with that. But it goes back to our core values. So we have 4 core values with our company. So we would want our partners to fit within those core values. So there's synergies of culture. And our core values are humility, unity, integrity, and accountability. And so when we look for a partner, we want to make sure that we have synergies around our cultures, so that we don't have that conflict, that their interests might not necessarily align from a culture standpoint of the way they do business. Communication is absolutely vital. So another that was mentioned in terms of really having open communication is very critical to, first of all, understand the opportunity, but then also as we deliver our service and products. And look for a partner that's self-aware, that really understands their strengths and most importantly, their weaknesses, so that they don't come in and feel like they have a savior complex, that they're coming in to help this maybe smaller company, but that they also see the things that they can learn from the flexibility and agility and innovativeness that a new, hungrier partner may bring. So self-awareness is something that we look for, that there is a mutual value and benefit. And so this is not necessarily the partner, but this is more in terms of the opportunity, that it's complementary, that it's not necessarily, hey, we're coming together because we're partnering and this will allow us to get this business. It's like, no, how are we stronger together to be able to deliver a better solution than either of us could have delivered ourselves? And so that value and benefit goes to both partners and ultimately to our respective customer. And then lastly, not least, when we talk about relationships, is people. You know, we tend to think of companies as enterprises, as these, beings in and of themselves, but it's ultimately the people. And we've experienced that because one time we had a great partnership very early on with our currently largest supplier, but they had a change in leadership. And all of a sudden the relationship changed almost overnight. So I think the people that you work with and that are actually is very important. So you really want to get to know the individuals that will be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the partnership, because the owners can make a deal, but then if the operations and the customer service and the technicians, if they aren't all on the same page, we're going to have to be brought in to have to clean up things often. So I think those are some of the characteristics that we look for in a partner.
A lot of good stuff from all three of you. I've made a list here. It's a lot of quality information. Steve, let me ask you. Let me go to you with this next question. What advice would you give a small business that's interested in approaching a company like Kiewit, a larger company, about a partnership opportunity? What advice would you give? How would you tell them to approach the company? What should they have in place before they approach? What general advice would you give?
Okay, I tell, so I do a couple of these. I did them up in Detroit and, Memphis. I really learned from Giselle too, right? Being a prime and kind of helping and understanding. I would tell small businesses and minority owned businesses and stuff like that, don't miss the opportunity to introduce yourself, right? So I know there's some events that, and they come up all the time, right? There's always events that you can get to. I would say at least get there, be ready to talk about your business and what you're capable of. And then the other part I would tell you is find a way to connect with the individual there that's at a personal level, right? I think all of us that are, when we go out to some of these events, most of the time, like I was in a new town in Memphis. Actually, my wife was with me at the time. Giselle was helping us out and, really speaking the language of the area. And, I'm meeting a lot of new people. And when we have an event, we've got 200-300 people like coming through there, right? And we're trying to find that one thing that really just sticks out. And, I tell Andre, there's, probably 100 people came through and said they could do our concrete for us. But there was something about Andre that connected with two other guys in our organization on a personal level, and it stuck to him. And that was Gabe and Steve Hamilton, and they're like, hey, they came to me, and these are people that are, really when I say coworkers, I'm around them more than the rest of my family, and they're like, hey, you got to meet this person, and I think we got to give them an opportunity. And not only are you selling your company, but when you're up there, your BD people or yourself, if you're representing yourself, you are really selling yourself when you're there. And I would always try to find a way to connect with the individual there. right? Because most of the time that's where a person like me in a big company, we're going to levitate towards, and we're going to find somebody that we really want to partner with. The other thing I would tell you is us big companies. I mean, I can tell you, like, sometimes I can't even navigate our own systems to get signed up and get on all of the different, Arivas and all the different programs that we use for data tracking and tracking suppliers. And I know it's frustrating out there, but don't ever give up on it, right? And I would say be a little persistent. When we did our deal in Memphis, MLGW let us borrow their lab. We had somebody in Omaha, we had a supplier sit down. They went through, got all the stuff, logged into their database. We were with them. We called Omaha to make sure it was there, right? I mean, it's almost like you got to be a little bit persistent. And I would say, don't think that that's tough, right? I mean, you want to be like, hey, and you can even blame it on, like, I'm not very good with a computer. I want to make sure I'm in the system. And hey, I haven't got any bids. What do I got to do to get more bids? Is there something? Because we all use systems for tracking our bids going in and out. And don't ever give up on that. Because I tell you, sometimes, I think Andres called us the Kiewit monster getting through our procurement system, right? But you got to, just be persistent and give it time, and then, get through it. Because once you do get through it, those opportunities on big companies like this, they just come. Andre tells you right now, he'll call me up and say, hey, I got a bid from Northern California, right? And it's like, why are these guys sending me a bid? Well, that's what big companies do once you're in the system, right? And you got a reputation. So don't ever give up, and then find that one person you got that personal relationship with, and, ask for help to get through. So.
Great. Thanks, Steve. So, Steve just talked about the relationship between where a smaller business is trying to form a relationship with a bigger business. Anthony, sometimes joint ventures or strategic partnerships can be formed between similarly sized businesses. Can you, just talk about, why would you partner with somebody that's similarly sized? Maybe you can talk about an example where you've done that, as opposed to a large corporation. It was a business that was similarly situated with you, and how those types of relationships can be beneficial.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I kind of say 1 + 1 = 3. So as much as we want to believe, and as we sell ourselves that we are everything and we can do everything well, when I talked about self-awareness, you really look at what are your strengths and what areas can you be stronger, whether that be technology, whether that be geography, whether that be capacity. And so oftentimes, smaller, mid-sized companies are in the same boat. They're going up against those big old boys, right? And so oftentimes when you're competing on an opportunity, you may not have everything within your portfolio of services, facilities, et cetera, to meet or to be the most competitive in a particular opportunity. But then you can partner with sometimes, like I said, even a competitor or someone of your size that may be in a complementary industry or service offering. And so teaming up can often be the difference between being invited to the dance and actually getting to dance. So we are often looking at, as we go through our strategic growth plan, and the MBDA and MMBC has helped us really develop that. And part of it it's like, okay, when you do that SWOT analysis, how do you shore up your weaknesses? Sometimes as small companies, you can't necessarily buy your way to fill all those voids, but then you form a partnership with a like-size company that it can address those. And then oftentimes you may find a partner that lacks the same. So just kind of a recent example, a partner that we are working with on one project says, hey man, we have an opportunity with the largest corporation in the world, but we don't have enough facilities for them to feel comfortable. So would we be able to partner and be able to leverage some of your facilities to be able to go after it? And I said, absolutely. And then you begin to peel back and see how can we add value beyond just the facility. So I think that's an example and reasons why smaller companies can also partner amongst themselves. But everything that we talked about earlier, though, in terms of the things that you need to watch out and what makes a partnership successful are even more important when you're talking with smaller companies, because oftentimes, the bigger companies, they can afford to make a mistake or two, right? Smaller companies, you make one major mistake, it may make the difference between you being in business and not. So you really have to be very careful, not scared, but you have to really do your homework and go into it with your eyes open and be prepared when you go into partnership. And if you do it boldly and dot your I's and cross your T's, that's where attorneys and finance professionals come into play. That can be a very powerful weapon to take you from a small company to a mid-sized company. And then one day, hopefully, we'll be a large company partnering with smaller companies, helping them become more successful.
Good. Thank you, Anthony. Good information. Let me go back now to something that Andre actually talked about it twice. First, he mentioned the fact that there's sometimes challenges in relationships, and in a good relationship, you're able to overcome them. And then, he later on talked about adversity, which inevitably will come up. So, Andre, I'm going to start with you. Can you just talk about, nothing specific, but in general terms, the types of challenges that you might anticipate encountering in a strategic partnership, and then some tools that you might use to get you through those challenges?
Well, I appreciate the question. I feel like I'm almost an expert on adversity. My whole life, I've dealt with numerous, things of adversity and how to deal with those, and whether it's my childhood to, football. And I tell people, especially when, you're dealing with someone like a Kiewit, right? And you want to put your best foot forward at all times, right? You want to represent yourself and your company at the absolute very best you can. And when you do fail, which you will, you just got to understand how do you have to deal with that, right? You can, and of course, my football coaches always say, there's one or two ways you can deal with it. Okay. You can man up or you cannot. Okay. And so, when we start dealing with these things, I can give you a good example. I remember a situation at TVA, Alan, with the job there with Kiewit and Packard. We had a pour, sizable pour, and we had this joints we had to cut in on the slab. And one of my guys, not sure what happened, but used the wrong blade and did not have a good finished product when it came to the saw cut joint, right? And so I remember the main guy at TVA, unbelievable friend, and still to this day a great friend of mine. We text all the time. How are you doing? But he's retired now. But at the time he was running the job for TVA, and he was also, of course, obviously very close to Packard. And I remember him and Packard in the office, and they were like, "Dude, what happened?" Okay. And at that moment, I had a decision, right? I had to face absolutely what happened. And he said, "Listen, this is what happened, and this is what I'm going to do about it." Okay. And not only this is what I'm going to do about it, but I'm going to be darn sure not to do it again. Okay. So for one, you talk about adversity, I think you have to own up to what you did. You have to own up to your mistakes, and you have to say, "Hey, listen, this is what I can do to, alleviate this and try for it not to happen again." Right. And so I think the biggest thing is when dealing with adversity is understanding. First of all, you got to understand what happened. Okay. You can't deal with the issue until you know what the issue was. Right. So you have to understand, listen, this is what happened, and this is how I can, help it and make things better. But at the same time, you've got to really understand that you have to have some acceptance there. You have to really accept your part of responsibility in what you did. Okay, which I've always done in my life was accept responsibility. Okay, so you've got to accept that, hey, I didn't do this perfectly. Okay, we're not perfect. We're imperfect beings, and God made us that way. And listen, what can you do to make sure that next time I won't have the same mistake, right? So as long as you don't do the same thing twice or 3 times, you're fine. Okay, everyone else, and so Packard did. I still remember going in his office, and there's another situation. That was one situation. Another situation was we were behind schedule on something. And I remember him going in the office, and he had this board on his office. It's his dry erase board. And he says, I want you to go up there and write in some dates. When are you going to be done with this? Where are you going to be done with that task? When are you going to be done with this? And this was one of the few times I met with Packard, right? It was one of the first few times. So I was a little intimidated by that, right? I was called into the principal's office. What are you going to do about this? Write the dates up there, right? So I was it was one of those impromptu things. I was called on the spot. It was called to the carpet. Okay. And I remember going in there and I'm thinking that, just thinking on my feet, and it's like, man, what am I going to do here? What are the actual dates here? And I was honest, wrote some dates down. But again, you have to, when it comes to expectations, you have to be honest with yourself. I think a lot of times we want to get in there and say, oh, I can, just like Mr. Anthony said, no, I can do this, we're the best at this. But you got to understand too where your limitations are. If you can't do something, then say it.
Good. Well, thanks, Andre. Boy, we've run out of time. I've got a few more questions I would love to be able to ask you guys, but our time is up. So to our 3 panelists, I really appreciate you for sitting in today. Appreciate the information you gave us. It's been informative to me, and I hope it's been informative to the attendees here. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. But listen, we're not done. We're done for today. Tomorrow we'll have a hot, as part of the EDF, there will be hot topic breakout rooms where you can talk to the panelists. In today's format, you couldn't do that. You had to listen. But tomorrow, the attendees will be able to interact with them, to ask questions, to speak directly with the panelists and the moderators. For this panel, if I'm reading the calendar for the schedule of events correctly, I think we're scheduled for 4 o'clock tomorrow. So if you would join back tomorrow. We'll have Andre, Steve, and Anthony there, and you can ask them questions, talk directly to them. Maybe we can tap a little bit further into their breadth of knowledge and experience. Now that said, again, thank you, panelists. Thank you, attendees, for sitting in and giving us your time. And thank you, Ms. Booker, and to the MMBC for hosting this wonderful event. Thank you.